words. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the April 1st, 2021 Cumberland County Commissioners Virtual Workshop Meeting. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance by saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call this meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. And at this time I open up the floor to public comments. Hearing none and seeing none, we'll go on and move on to agenda item number 3. And I'll call on Commissioner Eichelberger to recognize our facilities management. We have John Locke here with us for receiving the EPA 2020 Energy Star Award. Commissioner Eichelberger.
This is starting to feel like an old habit, a good one. So John is, of course, our stellar facilities director, and he's here because we have some good news once again on the facilities front and in terms of what we're doing for the public of our community here. Cumberland County's received the Environmental Protection Agency's 2020 Energy Star Award. Luckily, these are lighter than they used to be, so anyone you'll see this very handsome recognition of success we've had as a county government in terms of increasing efficiency, lowering our carbon footprint, all things that are very common issues in the news these days, but something Cumberland County's had its hands in for some time now. Our facilities department have made a commitment beginning about 15 years ago, I guess it was, to maintaining energy efficiency. We've calculated the savings of the county's participation in this at $5 million over the past 15 years. That's not a small change. And been awarded this award. This is going to be the 15th straight year the county's been recognized for its proactive approach to energy conservation. Facilities management exceeded expectations in energy savings by 19%. Expected savings for year 15 estimated at $309,036. However, the projection now shows that we've done better than that, $369,394. So again, a not small change for us. This saves energy and just as importantly protects our environment, not only for today but for the future. And I am given some information here that is worth repeating. That is that the Cumberland County Courthouse is the only courthouse in Pennsylvania to receive the award this year. One of only 6 government courthouses nationwide to earn the recognition. And we have received the Energy Star Award for 10 years now. There's a number of things that happen for us to qualify for this and be recognized in this manner. And John is the tip of the spear on all of those efforts. So John, would you like to give us a little insight into some of the things that we've done in the past, and especially this past year?
This past year, we continue to what we learned in 2005 and all the years thus far. We continue to do a lot of in-house upgrades with energy management, changing light bulbs. At that time, when we did it in 2005, T8s were the way to go. Now LEDs are the most popular at your house and at businesses. And our team has been doing that. We have almost all parking lot lighting changed over to LED. That's where you save the largest amount of money. We're still proactive in a lot of different areas. We added a substance called endotherm as a test last year on some of our gas lines, and we're going to be doing that throughout the whole county. We're constantly looking for new technology and new ways to improve energy, and we want to stay on the cutting edge as much as possible. And I appreciate the support of the Board of Commissioners moving this forward and keeping this at the forefront.
Okay. We thank you for your fine work. I think all of this speaks to the fact that county government these days is a substantial operation. We have a large number of facilities, a large number of responsibilities, and it is no small deal to keep ahead of all of the needs, capital and otherwise, that John is responsible for. So he certainly has our thanks. I just wanted to share one or two other things that were mentioned here. In addition to the lighting and vending and energy efficiency, there's also the low flow fixtures. There's the county's recycling programs and other initiatives that have collectively lowered the courthouse's green emissions. That reduction in emissions for all county facilities is the equivalent of removing 300 passenger cars from our roads each year over 15 years. And I would just add that we are not done yet. I think you're going to see some exciting new things coming in the next few years as there's greater recognition and greater resources made available for us to address energy efficiency and environmental quality issues as well. So stay tuned. And with that said, we do have a full agenda. How about, are we safe to bring John up here and do a presentation?
I think so.
All right. So I'll just note here that we do have, as mentioned earlier, this handsome plaque. John, where do we put these?
Courthouse lobby.
Okay, this will go in the lobby, so members of the public who are present can see that and know how proud we are of that. We'll also have the Energy Star Award Certificate, and it gives me great pleasure to hand this off to you, John, and hopefully we'll have this also prominently displayed. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I want to present this to you with our great thanks and appreciation for all that you've done to really make this work.
Thank you.
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit.
Close to perfect.
That wide angle lens, man.
Keep on smiling.
Keep smiling. All right, that's
Very good.
good.
Very good, Jeff. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
No,
John.
again, whatever you want to do, you take that now.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay.
That was nice. So we'll go ahead and get back into business, and we'll start with agenda item number 4, which is contracts and grants. Agenda item number 4, Roman numeral 1A, is existing contracts, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional costs or increases to the county. We have one, which is for the Commissioner's Office. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the agreement? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 4, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. And we'll start with agenda item A. I'm actually covering this for adult probation. So adult probation has an agreement with the PA Board of Probation and Parole. Half of all the offender supervision fees are actually collected, all of the fees are collected, half of them are dispersed to the state. This agreement allows for that half of the money to be dispersed back to the county at a later date. And so that's actually what adult probation is requesting, that after Monday's meeting that you sign, so that we can have that money dispersed back to us. Do you have any questions? All right, we'll move on then, and I'll call on Christine Bowden to discuss aging and community services contracts and grants. Christine?
Good morning. The first contract is for the Center of Independent Living. It is an addendum to the original contract for the Aging and Disability Resource Center for the counties that they cover. It's additional funds that have been granted by the state for the COVID migration and equipment purchase. The Bell contract, the Bell Services contract is also for COVID relief for seniors to provide equipment and technology to help them during this time. And that's a $25,000 grant. Contract. The cooperative agreement is our 4-year cooperative agreement that we have with the state for our revenue. It will start a new year come July of 2021 through 2025. There's no increase in funds. It's approximately $2.7 million each year, which equals the $9.8 million that you see on the agenda.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Christine? All right, thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you.
Jamie Reiber is with us on Zoom as well to discuss the contract for children and youth. Jamie? I'm sorry, we're not hearing you, Jamie.
She needs to unmute.
I was on mute, sorry.
Oh, that sounds a lot better.
This is our 2020-2021 contract for alternative rehabilitation, rehabilitative communities. They are a residential program that we use. We don't use them very heavily. They did request an 8% increase this year. They have not had an increase from us since 2015-2016 fiscal year. And they are requesting the increase due to the fact that they have not provided raises to their staff since 2013. They have had increases in their liability insurance costs and health insurance costs. And they have actually had to close several facilities, so they are just trying to make up some of that at this point. The rates are within the state approved amount, and they're all very similar to other like programs.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Jamie? Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Melissa Smith is here with us as well to discuss the grant and contract for CNRC. Melissa?
Good morning, Commissioners. The first one I have is requesting to apply for a grant from Partnership for Better Health. They've reached out to us and have grant funds that they want to distribute part of the COVID-19 funds that are being offered. What we are asking for from them would be some accessories to go with the It's Never Too Late system that we purchased. It's a interactive system for the residents. There's a stationary one located in Heritage Harbor and two that are floating throughout the building. What we are asking for to purchase with this grant fund would be a flight simulator, a driving simulator, and bike simulator. So it not only help with that, helping mentally, but also physically for the residents. And this is just the request to apply for that grant. Any questions with that?
No. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. The second contract I have is Civic Plus. It's the website hosting and support maintenance contract. IFTO has already looked at this and it just needs approval for the next year. There is an increase of $197.50, which represents an 8.1% increase over last year.
Any questions for Melissa? Sorry, I beat you to it, Melissa.
All right.
All right, thank you. No questions for you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Charlie Hall here to discuss the coroner's office contract. Charlie?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is our renewal for Dr. Wayne Ross for forensic pathology services and autopsy services. There is an increase this year, but it's the first increase we've had in 4 years.
Any questions?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And next we'll call on Jack Carroll to discuss the contract for drug and alcohol. Jack?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm excited to talk about this contract. It's a result of some new funding from our primary state agency, the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, for housing services focused on individuals in early stage recovery. This is something new for drug and alcohol. Our system generally has not had the advantage of having resources available to support housing services. It's significant because sometimes it's difficult for the folks that we fund for treatment to access other housing services that are available because many of them have a criminal record that will disqualify them for some of the funding and the programs that are available. This funding is part of the additional federal opioid response funding. We are receiving $492,468. The term of the funding is from retroactive to the beginning of March through the end of September. And our plan is to subcontract responsibility for this to the Family Health Council of Central Pennsylvania, which has some experience in managing housing funding. There is no match required for this. It's anticipated that there will be continuing funds for another year beyond September. Of course, that will be based on the performance in the first few months in operating this grant. The types of services that will be covered will be rental assistance, utility assistance. For folks in very early stage recovery, we can use these funds to cover the rental costs at recovery houses. And then it will also pay for housing and recovery support case management services. The expectation is that people who are able to take advantage of these services are engaged in treatment and recovery support services. Any questions?
No.
Okay, no questions for you,
Very
Jack. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sue Carville will be discussing contracts for early intervention and intellectual and developmental disabilities for fiscal year 2020-2021. Sue?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. The first contract is for early intervention. It's for Jennifer Snyder. Jennifer is one of our physical therapists, and we are increasing her contract by $11,590 to do additional services for the children. The contract for intellectual and developmental disabilities is for Vision for Equality. They are our independent monitoring provider. They interview our individuals and families for customer satisfaction for the services and supports that they are receiving. This is their initial contract for this year, and it is for $41,350. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Stephanie Williams was to be with us today to cover the Planning Department Land Partnership contracts, but she had a conflict, and so she asked me to cover them for her. So I know I will be a poor substitute for her, but I'm gonna figure it out as we go here. So the list that you see on the agenda, they were all approved. The recommendations were approved back in November of 2020. What you have before you today is to approve the official contract between the recipient and the county. So the contract is a standard template, was developed by our solicitor's office. And if you have any questions about any of the details of the grants, I can provide that information for you. Any questions? All right. We'll move on then. That concludes our contract. So we'll move on to agenda item number 5. And the Planning Department grant application request to PA DCNR was discussed yesterday at our finance meeting. We discussed it. There was a question about one of the documents, and so that was tabled. And it is ready to be addressed today. This is an action requested item.
Okay, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to untable.
That's what we can do that, go ahead.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded to untable the action. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, so then we need the approval for the action itself. So I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the grant application request to PADCNR to update the land partnerships plan.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. So next I'll call on Justin Miller to discuss advertising for recycling and waste. And I do love the background, Justin. You're ready for April.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, let me start by saying I discussed this issue with the authority at their last meeting, so I'm really bringing their recommendation forward to you. Every county is required to have a waste management plan, which ensures disposal capacity for the waste generated within the county for the next 10 years. We have done calculations to determine what our needs are for that period. We're looking at about 3.2 million tons over that period. So we're now ready to go out there and try to find that capacity. So I'm asking for your permission to advertise for an expression of interest from both public and private facilities for providing that capacity. It's a short paragraph advertisement. DEP will put it in the Pennsylvania Bulletin and will advertise in a national publication. When we get responses, we'll then survey those facilities and then work with them to develop final agreements. Any questions?
So,
All right, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 7 is discussion of capital project requests, and we'll start with the coroner's office. So I'll call on Charlie to discuss the Furno body removal system. Charlie?
Good morning. Yeah, as you may recall, 5 or 6 years ago, we purchased a Furno power cot and loading system for one of our trucks at a cost of $36,000. That has been a tremendous value to our department for these large bodies that we encounter. People are not getting workman's comp claims from back injuries and stuff, lifting these heavy bodies. Our caseload has increased rather dramatically, and we're encountering more and more bigger bodies. So I researched trying to find another power cot so we would have 2 available to us. And we found a company in New Jersey that has 2 refurbished cots, and these are like brand new. They're only 4 years old or 6 years old. And they come with all the accessories and everything we need, the loading attachments and everything we need. And he's willing to sell them both to us for $20,000. And I would be paying for this out of Act 122 money, so there would be no money coming out of the general fund.
Any questions?
Charlie, you're okay with refurbished equipment?
Yes, like I say, they're like new, and they've been gone over and everything. And the only thing we would need to do is yearly maintenance on them. We have somebody come and check them and tune them up once a year.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Charlie, very much.
Thank you.
Ron Snow would like to discuss a copier for the finance department. Ron?
Good morning, Commissioners. The current finance copier lease is expired, so we're requesting to enter into a new 4-year lease on a new copier. It's the same specs as our current machine, and the cost is the same as we paid for the current machine. So the total for 4 years is $18,275.52.
Any questions for Ron? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Mark Adams is joining us to discuss the countywide wireless wide area network. Mark?
Good morning, Commissioners. The wireless WAN is what we have that connects building to building throughout all of our locations. It was installed in 2010. We have varying network speeds between buildings, between 200 megabits to a gig speed connection between the big towers. They are 10 years old and need to be replaced. And we've replaced a couple of them over the last couple of years, pieces of it. Our current vendor maintenance is $35,000 a year. It expires in June this year, and we would like to replace all the components of the WAN. The new system would actually give us improved speeds, a gig speed between buildings, and an additional redundancy. The cost is for 5 years, about $140,000. However, we would see a positive return on investment after or during this year.
Any questions for Mark?
Yeah, I do. Mark, I'm gonna ask my typical layman's question, which is, how confident are we in the future-proofing side of this, since everything's changing so much, and now, I don't know if it's relevant, but we got 5G rollout and all these other new technologies coming on board. Are we confident now's the right time to move on this?
Yes, I think it's a good time to move on this. We have some really improved performance and redundancy built into the project, and we'll see some really nice improvements in performance. And we'll also see some redundancy in our connectivity between some of the major towers. So we're at like 60 gigahertz connectivity, where normally we would see 5 gigahertz through your normal self-service. So we're getting top of the line performance.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, I noticed we're going to a new vendor. Is that because the current vendor isn't performing?
Sort of, yes. They're also very expensive, and they've had some turnover at their executive level. And I think I prefer to move on to somebody else. The vendor that we're proposing is a CoStar's contract, and they also work with CCAP and have a partnership with CCAP. So very reliable, and they're also partnering with ECI, which is a tower facility infrastructure vendor.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for Mark? Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Next, I'm going to call on Commissioner Fauci to discuss the appointment recommendation for the Children and Youth Citizens Advisory Committee. Commissioner Fauci.
So, Jamie Van Meter, we are seeking an appointment for Jamie for a 3-year term effective April 5th, 2021 and expiring on March 31 of 2024 to the Children and Youth Citizens Advisory Committee. Jamie did spend 12 years at Children and Youth Services here in the county, and she would be a welcome and positive addition to the group.
Thank you, Commissioner Fauci. I'm going to ask you also to discuss the appointment recommendation for the Local Emergency Planning Committee.
So, as we know, Connie Heckert has been an employee of the county she was in public safety for 21 years. She has had enjoyed a very illustrious career here, and we are lucky to be able to keep her as the Central Area Representative for the Local Emergency Planning Committee, effective upon PEMA appointment through December 31 of 2024.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is Commissioner's Liaison Reports, and I'll start by calling on Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, just a little bit. We heard earlier from Justin regarding recycling, and just to reiterate, the waste management plan is up for its renewal, and that process is moving forward. The application for additional capacity is a component of that will be reflecting the goals that are laid out by that plan. So that continues forward. He gave you kind of a detailed outline of the steps involved in that. I don't need to take up time here to go over that, and I'd like to see if I can provide that for sure. The Electronic Recycling Center, he gave me some new numbers on that. Activity has picked up, as you might expect, in March. We did have a slower than normal February, but and that was largely attributed to weather. But in February, we had 1882 pounds per day, and for March, we're at 2645, a substantial increase. So obviously, some people started spring cleaning as well, so a lot of stuff making it into the recycling stream, which is good news for sure. I did want to touch on the fact I had mentioned before about the state budget cannibalization of some of the recycling funds. There's not a lot of update on that yet. DEP has been strangely, I don't want to say it's not strange, they've been silent on it, which, you know, they're traditionally, we know the timeframes they're generally going to respond to inquiries and grant applications and such for, and they're significantly off of those. So we're still looking for guidance on DEP in regards to a number of management issues and funding issues. So the 902 grant, which we use to purchase the yard waste equipment, that is normally would have been in hand by now. That is not the case. the Section 903, which is the reimbursement grant for Justin's position, pays his salary. That is currently listed as closed until further notice, so there's no grant activity there. Of course, we'll have to see some resolution on that in due course. Typically, April 30th would be when everything would be submitted. But we're off the pace for that this year. The Household Hazardous Waste Program also is dependent on a 50% reimbursement grant. Normally, those applications would be acted upon by now. Our application is in, it's been in for quite a while. So again, pace is off. We're trying to monitor what the downstream effects of all that's going to be. There's no announcement information on their website, which typically would be there. Nothing about the grant being closed or a change of schedule. There's just nothing. So we're kind of operating in the dark there, keeping our fingers crossed for addressing some of that. There are a lot of requests coming in for the yard waste recycling equipment, of course, this time of year. It's pretty normal in keeping with the improvement of the weather. So the household hazardous waste event that we do have, there's a press release sent out recently, of course, that, as expected, it resulted in a surge of signups. As of late yesterday, 318 of the slots are taken. There's 360 available. So that's for the April 15 event. Bill, so the judge said, I don't think I'm gonna have any trouble filling all 360. There's historically seen a significant amount of interest there. So I think that's gonna continue to be a very successful public event. That's all on that side. Real quick on NHIDD. A lot of this was, our meeting was 2 weeks ago. A lot of this was covered in the recent Human Services Policy Team meeting, which we were all in attendance at, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this. Plus, some of these numbers were probably updated since it's 2 weeks. QPR training, the question, persuade, refer, which is the anti-suicide effort. There was no training in March, however, there are 2 scheduled for April, and those are with EMS providers. So continue to see healthy demand for that. I believe that's very much a needed service. Let's see, anything else is pretty, we're continuing to see some of the services migrate over to in-person. That's something that is worked out individually in all cases with family and in keeping with the circumstances of each individual case as well. So continue to see cases come down, which of course is going to be helpful in providing those services going forward. And again, crisis intervention was spiking throughout the entire COVID situation. Those numbers are reflected in some of the statistics I was given, and not a pretty sight, I will say. COVID numbers not only come down, but we're seeing the vaccination rate also not only for our personnel, our providers, and residents of the community homes and intermediate care facilities getting vaccinated, getting the vaccination rate up. Still working on that, but making progress there, just like pretty much the rest of society. Project Search, of course, 4th class is now in session, which 4 individuals in that class. We'll be getting updates on that from time to time. It's a great program that the department carries out. I think that'll cover it.
Thank you, Commissioner Underberg. Commissioner Fauci.
I will remind everyone to use the Cumberland County Library System. Just last week, my oldest son and I used it to do some homework on factoring binomials. So once again, the Cumberland County Library System saves me with math. It does. Monday evening, Commissioner DiFilippo and I attended the Cumberland County Farm Bureau's annual meeting, and I would say that that was really quite a lively event, and there was lots of lively discussion at the end as every one of the state reps from our delegation was there, or they had a representative there, so there was a good Q&A that happened. I have Drug and Alcohol Commission this evening, so I don't really have a lot. I'm headed into this phase of the month where all of my meetings happen, and then I'll have a lot to report at the next workshop meeting. I did participate in an event with Senator Casey earlier this week. There were several other county commissioners on that event, and he did advise that within the next 2 to 3 weeks, there will be some decent firm guidance coming out about what we can do with the American Recovery Plan funds. And then finally, on, I believe it was Tuesday morning, I participated in a community responder meeting, and I was a bit alarmed, I'm really alarmed, that we have had a 62% uptick, or I'm sorry, a 71% uptick in literal homelessness in the past year in Cumberland County, despite the moratorium on homelessness. And there were a lot of conversations about why that was happening, and one of the beliefs is that there are landlords that just are not renewing leases. And we have 56 families with children that are homeless in Cumberland County, so that is certainly concerning. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fauci. Commissioner DiFilippo.
Yeah, I have an update here for the recent Aging Advisory Board meeting. The caregiver support program has been able to resume their monthly support group meetings via Zoom. The Apprise volunteers, Apprise, of course, is the program that offers free Medicare counseling, had 42 phone appointments this past month. Ombudsman had 52 contacts by phone and mail. However, they're still unable to go into the nursing homes. Regarding our senior centers, the centers are still serving grab-and-go meals. It's up to each center when they will reopen for daily programs. The Mechanicsburg Center is doing tax preparation 2 days a week. Regarding the COVID vaccine, Sandy reported that a media briefing was held not long ago indicating that local aging agencies would be able to assist people to get the vaccine. And as a result of that briefing, our offices, our Department of Aging offices are getting 60+ calls a day. A success story was shared. Recently, UPMC Carlisle called our department, aging department, said they had 75 shots available. And our aging department contacted callers and within 2 hours provided the names of 75 people who were able to get to the hospital later that day and receive the vaccine. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Regarding the Conservation District, our county conservation district received the first permit submission in the state just recently. A little update on the Resource Enhancement and Protection Program, also known as REAP, which allows farmers to obtain tax credit for multi-species cover crops. This will start in 2021. It's just another tool that the state is changing to encourage farmers to plant cover crops for the winter. The State Conservation Commission is expanding the CEG, which is the Conservation Excellence Grant Program, to other counties next year. So that means we, Cumberland County, will have to compete with more counties for funding. But this past year, we received $900,000 for use for the Ag BMP, which is becoming quite popular now. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner DiFilippo. I would like to report executive sessions were held on March 22nd, 2021 at 11:30 a.m., March 25, 2021 at 10:30 a.m., and March 31, 2021 at 9:30 a.m., all regarding personnel. Is there any additional business that needs to come before the board today? Hearing none, we will adjourn.